Hey, flower friends. It is your friend in flowers, Lisa Mason Ziegler, and thanks for dropping into the Field and Garden podcast. I appreciate when you choose us because I know you have a lot of choices. So friends, I don't know about you, but I won't say the weather's crazy because the weather is always crazy now, right? But I was doing a little check-in for my own personal farm here today, and I thought that would be a great thing for us to just talk about a little bit. And maybe it'll help remind you of, oh my goodness, we need to adjust, or we need to remember to do that. So that's what I want to talk about today. But before we get started, I want to remind everybody that this podcast is made possible by thegardenersworkshop.com, which is home base to everything that we do. And friends, everything we do for you. Whether you are growing for profit or pleasure, we just want to help you grow flowers. And we can teach you, we can equip you, and we love embracing you and helping you with that. And I would love for you to send us messages. Let us know what you're up to. What do you want to hear about here on the Field and Garden podcast? We read them all. All right, friends. So it's not the 1st of May, but it's early May. And I don't know about you, but we are literally still planting our first warm season tender annuals. Normally, they'd have been in the ground by 2 weeks by now. But we were just having some kind of really cold nights. And when I say really cold for warm season tender annuals. And that's just kind of delayed things. And that's what's kind of brought me to where we are. But I don't want to start with warm season. I want to start with, we are having the most spectacular cool season hardy annual season. And now is the time for you to do a big old check-in on not so much what's happening right now, because that's like water over the edge. There's nothing you can do to get cool flowers right now if they're not in your garden on the verge of blooming, right? They're cool season hardy annuals. But now is the time to make yourself a little list, and if you have my big calendar journal, right now is the time that you should just be jotting down what you are seeing, probably on social, people showing beautiful cool flower blooms. What did you miss? What are you seeing that you really want to try to grow for this next cool season? And now is the time to jot your little list of what those flowers are. And the other thing I want to suggest, that what I'm doing more and more of these days, is what cool flowers, if you have some blooming right now, you don't want to grow again. Maybe they bloom too early. That happens to us because I grow all the cool flowers, right? I mean, I'm not shooting to hit a market or something. For us, Iceland poppies, they bloom really early. And even the bachelor buttons, unless you have a lot of other stuff to go with those types of flowers or just early flowers, what are you going to do with them? You're not going to fire up. This is what would happen to us. We would get some early flowers and somebody'd say, well, let's just cut them. Well, it's just not that simple. That means you have to crack open the harvest stuff weeks earlier than your regular harvest. And so that shifts everything. For me, it does, because those buckets are living on our hardening off area. And so those early bloomers may be actually helping you out, but if they're not, consider, should you grow them again? We had actually stopped growing Iceland poppies because they were so darn early. If I could get them to bloom in May, we'd be in great shape around here. And this year they are still going, but they're on their way out as soon as it starts heating up, and that's what we're coming to. So that's just a consideration. And here's the other one, something you've grown too much of that you just can't keep up with either cutting it or using it or selling it or whatever your purpose of growing the flowers. The first one that I would put on that list for most of us, and it's even happened to us this year, and that's bachelor buttons. They are spectacular flowers because they're blue. Well, not all of them are, but there are some amazing blue flowers. Dark blue, light blue, speckled blue, but they're very prolific. They're not a really big showy flower, but they're great to have to accent bouquets. My suggestion to most people is plant no more than 5 feet. Well, we have 5 feet of every color that we sell. That is a lot of bachelor buttons. And they get away from you so quickly because here's the secret about why you should only grow 5 feet. If you truly cut them twice a week like you normally harvest, cut them often and cut them hard, they will continue to produce blue flowers or whatever flower color you're growing. I mean, we have them still going at the end of June, but that can't happen when they don't get cut. And we've already lost them. We've already lost control of them, meaning we've already stopped cutting the whole patch because we just can't keep up. And so that's another thing you should just step back and take a look at right now in your garden. And here's the one that, y'all, I mean, I counsel more people. We get so many questions about this all the time. Now is the time to firm up your planting windows for cool flowers, for fall planting, if you're able to fall plant, and then very early spring next year. And then sit down. If you have the calendar, it walks you through. This is your date to plant. That means you have to count back this number of weeks for this specific plant. You can just look at the seed starting worksheet that came with your calendar. The same information is in my book. And now is the time, because here's the thing. It's already May, y'all. Guess what we start in June? Biennial Sweet Williams. You need to order seed if you don't have it. Do you see what I mean? It creeps up on you. So now is the time to take a minute, sit down and evaluate, what do you want to grow again? What don't you want to grow? Or what did you miss out on? And then most importantly, sit down and figure out your planting windows. And then based on your planting windows, count back the number of weeks you need to start it from a transplant. Then you need to count back. You need to get your supplies ready, seeds, and however you're starting them. And y'all, I mean, it's like you'll be in next week before you know it. And so this is just a reminder. And here is perhaps one of the most frustrating questions or people that are the most frustrated is when it comes time for them to plant their cool flowers this fall, if you're fall planting, they say they have nowhere to plant them. And it's because they have filled their garden up with all this other stuff, all these warm season tender annuals. And friends, you just can't do that because, frankly, your spring blooming cool season hardy annuals are the highest value crop you're going to grow all year. That's where there's the most demand, and I frankly think some of the easiest flowers to grow because of when they're planted and the least amount of care they need. So, where are you going to plant them? I keep repeating myself, y'all. Where are you going to plant them? Firm up your planting windows. What is it you don't want to grow again because maybe it's too early or you grew too many of them? And what did you miss out on? So that's check-in number 1. That is the cool season hardy annuals. So the second check-in varies so much for people depending on where you are, and that is your second and third warm season tender annual plantings. So we've delayed ours because we're just getting our first one in, right? So it was delayed 2 weeks. So that means we're delaying 2 weeks of starting our next warm season succession. How many successions you make and how late you can make definitely depends on your first fall frost. How much time do you have between now? Most of us are, if you're not already in warm season, you're heading that way, right? How much time do you have from now until your first fall frost? That tells you how many successions, and if you're a home gardener, I would probably only plant twice for warm. I mean, unless you have a big need for flowers. But if you're harvesting as a flower farmer, more successions give you more quality and more volume. And so you're going to have to kind of gauge that. So we have decided to delay starting our second warm season, which normally, let's see, this is May. Normally that would be mid-May, we'd be starting seeds. And so we're going to wait a couple of more weeks. And normally we do a third succession, but we'll see how fast we get our second in the ground. But again, friends, we are not growing to sell. When you're selling flowers, you need more flowers than you need less flowers to meet your demand, right? You don't want to be caught with not high quality and not enough flowers. So are you on track for your second and third warm season plantings? If you're not, now is the time to get with it. And I also want to say two things. One is think back, if this is, not your first season, think back to last year. What was your July and August like? That is a classic time where a lot of people are vacationing, unless you have some really established accounts with florists and those types of customers. Sometimes people are dead in the water in July and August. I'm talking about flower growers. Do you want to downgrade the volume that you're growing for summer? Because what that'll do is allow you to perhaps maybe get some work done in your garden and be prepared to plant that third planting for fall harvest, right? Fall is only second to spring in demand of people wanting flowers. That is true at the farmers markets, at supermarkets, at flower shops. So now is like a really perfect time. I think I'd probably be inclined to say that I would probably plan my third planting of what, all your fall stuff, all the fall colors. We plant the same flowers typically all summer long, same varieties. We just change the colors up so they're more suitable for the fall, the Southwest colors and that kind of thing. But think about focusing more on the fall than the summer if you think you're just not going to have any demand. And the other thing I wanted to say is if you're already overwhelmed in your garden, now is the time to take action as you're planning your next planting and the planting after that. Do you need to slim your numbers down? And I'm going to just pin myself right here for a minute. Do you know, y'all have probably heard me talk about that we took a big step last fall when we planted our cool flower beds. We planted so much less than we normally do because we've been growing too much. And so we stuck with our guns. We only have 3 100-foot beds of cool season hardy annuals that were transplanted. We have direct seeded stuff in another space, but we only planted 5 feet of bed of each of the stuff that I grew. Every seed that we sell in mixes, if that was available. So they're all out there. And friends, let me tell you what I'm so surprised over. So what that led us to do was to only plant the best, because we start 100 of all the seeds. And we only really need, I think we need like 40 to 50 seedlings to plant a 5-foot section of bed. So that means half of them weren't going to get planted. That allowed us to plant only the top quality, top looking, the best seedlings. No more of those puny guys, right? Y'all, I just can't tell you the volume of blooms we're getting from our garden. I mean, I say to Bobo, are you kidding me? That came from 5 feet and it came from there today and it's going to come from there again on Thursday and the next Monday and the next. Do you see what I mean? So if you're finding that you're getting better at this growing game and you are getting more stems from smaller space because you finally learned how tight you're supposed to plant, you're planting great transplants instead of not starting enough seed and squeaking in the puny ones, and they end up croaking, and then there's open space in your bed, and then it's growing weeds. Do you see where that's going, friends? And also, just on that same note, it's time to slim down, and the simpler, the better, y'all. I can remember just how complicated I made everything back when I was trying to grow so much different stuff and trialing this and trying that. And, you know, that's fine when you're a home gardener, but that just doesn't fly right when you are growing as a flower farmer. But simplicity, simplicity. And then the other one I want to make sure you're on top of is, are you planting your sunflowers every week? So it doesn't matter if you're doing a subscriptions of 10 bouquets a week or you're just getting it all figured out. You should be planting sunflowers every week. If you don't have customers yet, you're practicing. You're going to see what this can do for you. I was, I'm always working on projects, and I'm working on a writing project, and I'm reviewing all the ways that we've sold flowers through the years and just making notes about that. And when I got to the time in my business that we started growing sunflowers in volume and how it saved our blooming necks. I'm not kidding you. I mean, a week that you're low on other flowers for whatever reason, whether it was a storm, pest, or you just didn't plant enough, popping in 2 or 3 of the smallish size sunflowers that we grow, people love that. And it just made our job so much easier. And I was just reading about the suffering. I mean, I'm telling you, Suzanne and I were just beating the bushes for more flowers to finish our orders, and they just weren't out there. And we never once again had to do that after we started growing sunflowers every week. They just fixed our problems. And so I'm encouraging you, if you are not already planting sunflowers every week, we grow Pro Cuts, same variety, week after week, and that by planting the same variety each week, that keeps it on a schedule, so that if you plant each week, 55 to 60 days later after you start, you should be having sunflowers to cut every single week. If you're a small grower, start 30 a week. If you're doing a farmer's market, you should be starting at least 128 plug tray, because even if you're not selling them, you think you're going to be using them in your booth for decoration and drawing people in. Put a big old bucket of beautiful open sunflowers at the front of your booth. Not wide open, puny looking sunflowers, the gorgeous ones. It'll bring so many customers in your booth, you just won't even believe it. And so now's the time to hop to it. We plant right up until like 60 days before our first frost, because that's how quick Pro Cuts bloom from seed to bloom, right? So I'm starting sunflowers once a week, all of May, all of June, all of July, all of August, and pretty much all of September. So if you're not doing it, and that's with my first frost date of mid-November, if you're not doing it, I'm pretty sure you have time to get started. And once you get on the bandwagon, it's like we say now, we just don't even know what we did before. We suffered a lot is what we did. And the icing on the cake was that because we sold to not only supermarkets making bouquets and at farmers markets, but we were selling to florists. And once we got them hooked on our top quality, so much prettier than what gets shipped in sunflowers, they couldn't believe it either. They don't know how they sold that old mess, y'all. So I have some other things that were on my list, but I frankly think I've just kind of pointed out enough that's enough to do right now. This is the week of Mother's Day, I think, is when this is gonna come out. And so the other thing I want to prepare you for, if you are a flower farmer, you better sell like crazy this week, because next week will be crickets. I'm sorry. Yes, the week after Mother's Day will be crickets, meaning the florists typically, unless they have a better than they thought Mother's Day and it cleaned them out, most florists overbuy so much for Mother's Day, which is the highest grossing flower holiday of the year. They overbuy so much that they'll keep using that stuff for 2 weeks after Mother's Day. So I'm just saying, count on it. Make a plan. How are you going to sell your flowers? And don't be surprised. And it's not you. That's the way it is. I can remember the huge letdown in this particular year. We would be sitting in Dreamy City because we have all of our crops are just about blooming their heads off right now, which means we would have a ton to sell. Nothing is worse is that your flowers don't come in until the week after Mother's Day. That's when you're kind of done. You kind of get really over it. But that is the up and down in the market, and you live and learn. So friends, remember, cool flowers. What'd you miss? What do you not want to grow next year or not so much of? Get on your calendar, get in your book, figure out what are your planting windows for cool season hardy annuals. Count back. When are you supposed to start seeds for those transplants, right? When are you supposed to plant biennials? I'm telling you, Electron and Super Duplex, the two Sweet Williams that we offer the seed of, there's a reason that growers grow those. They are spectacular. They are so much different than all the other Sweet Williams because they're all bicolors. They take people's breath. Everybody loves them. And we're coming up on when they're supposed to be started. All right, my friends. So get on that. Consider your second and third warm season plantings. How do you need to adjust? If you're planting later than usual, do you need to slim down your numbers? Just get on track. What is your track? Know what your track is. And then, friends, remember to get on the sunflower bandwagon. Until you grow them like that, like we grow them, small and frequent, they're just such a boon to you, your business. And if you're selling to florists, you'll have to, they'll love them after they start using them. All right, my friends. So I want to remind you of a couple things. Save the date. Our once a year open farm is June 27th. That's the last Saturday in June. Jesse will put the link to the details. It's rain or shine, 10 to 2. Our warehouse, which is 4 miles away, will also be open. We welcome friends from all over the country, y'all. And it's a lot of fun. We'd love to have you. And all the details are on our website. And remember that thegardenersworkshop.com is home base to everything. You can find everything over there, our online garden shop, our library of online courses, tons of resources. You can connect with our other podcast, Seed Talk with Lisa and Lane. And friends, I just hope that somebody just said to themselves, oh yeah, I need to do that with my little checklist here today, because that's exactly what happened to me. All right, my friends, have a good one and see you on the flip side of Mother's Day. Ciao.